Welcome back to another episode of Story Behind the Story. I'm your host, John Walker, and thankfully today joined by Maddie Mapes, a news reporter at the Northwest Missourian. Maddie, you wrote about mail-in ballots this week. For people that haven't read your article yet, give them a little rundown of what that's about, and then we'll hop into some questions for you.
All right, so the mail-in ballot story, we kind of discovered that absentee ballots are used way more than mail-in ballots, which is interesting because Governor Parsons had recently approved mail-in ballots specifically because of COVID.
Right.
And nobody's using them, or very few, I guess.
Right. And I guess, you know, obviously in your investigative reporting so far, or for this article, why aren't people using them?
I'm not quite sure. When you look at absentee ballots, there are now 7 excuses for you to request an absentee ballot.
Right.
And from what I'm understanding is that those 7 reasons are covering everything.
What are some of those reasons?
Some of them are like disability, you know, you're absent on election day, like for college students, that's the #1 thing.
Right.
Because of COVID, that's the newest one they've added, things like that.
And what is the biggest difference between an absentee ballot and then just the mail-in ballot that is now approved?
So the absentee ballots, you can request those and you can walk them back in person, and you have to have an excuse for them. So whenever you bring them in, like whenever you request one, you have to have an excuse to get one, and then you can personally walk them back in. With mail-in ballots, they mail them to you, and you have to mail them back, and it has to be notarized. That's the main reason. So
Gotcha.
Some absentee ballot reasons do not require a notarization of signatures.
And just now moving specifically to Nottoway County, you obviously talked to the county clerk. What are some of the things that you found out from her?
I found out that she actually doesn't have to keep track of how many people are actually using the COVID excuse for getting an absentee ballot, but she's doing it mostly out of her curiosity. And she's found that a lot of people aren't really using it as much as she thought they would. A lot of people are just going for absentee ballots for other reasons. Right.
And I noticed in one of your stories the statistical differences between the absentee and mail-in ballots. Talk about that a little bit.
There's a huge difference. I mean, she has them broken down into about 4 different sections. Right. You have a permanent absentee, which are people who are disabled or can't be there on election day or older. And then you have other, which is for religious reasons. And then there's also, there's COVID, of course.
Right.
And then there's the mail-in. Mail-in, I believe there was only 39 requested ballots, whereas for absentee there were hundreds.
Right.
So there's a huge gap between the two.
And if you could have found anything else out or done a little bit more digging prior to you writing this, what do you think that would have been?
I think it would have been probably figuring out the reason why so few people are actually requesting mail-in ballots. And, you know, for the people who are using mail-in rather than absentee, why are they choosing that over an absentee ballot? And
I know that you talked to one of the freshmen here at Northwest. Talking to them, what did you necessarily find out from a student's perspective about the absentee or mail-in ballot?
I think it made it easier for her as a student who's not from the area. So she, of course, asked for a mail-in ballot. I'm sorry, and it was helpful for her, although it was a struggle getting it because she did not know when the ballot was going to come. She received no notification, but she got it and was able to get it in within a few weeks.
Alrighty. Maddie, I think that is all the time we're going to have for you. Everybody, make sure you vote, whether it's absentee, in-person, or a mail-in ballot. Make sure to check out Maddie's article in this week's edition of the Northwest Missourian. And until next time, we'll see y'all.